To all my New Jersey home buyers out there, today we're going to talk about something. I'm really excited about this. I am excited.
I'm excited too.
We should have done this video. It's a tongue twister. I'm so excited. We should have done this video a while ago. But if you are a home buyer out there and you want to find out how to potentially get out of paying your closing cost and having to cough up that money at the closing table, stick around because we're getting after it right after this. If this is your first time to the Living in New Jersey channel, please feel free to click on the subscribe button, tap the bell for notifications so you can be one of the first to be alerted to amazing videos like this. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Matthew Williamson. I am a real estate agent here in the, Garden State. Yeah, the Garden State. The wonderful Jersey. Yeah, shout out New Jersey. Yeah, I always hear like the Sopranos in my head. Like, yo, shout outs to my New Jersey peoples out there. How you doing? Anyways, my name's Matthew. I'm a realtor here in the wonderful state of New Jersey, as I mentioned a moment ago. And look, on the daily, we get home buyers. They email us, they text us, they call us. If you look around me, you will see those happy faces. Those are successful home owners now. They're home buyers, but now they're homeowners, right? They're no longer waiting.
To the closing table.
Yeah, got them to the closing table. That's why we're here, to help you and get you to the closing table. If you've been working with someone and you made like 47 offers and it ain't getting done, our information will be down below. But I digress. I'm not trying to rub salt in someone's wound here, Anyways, if you watch other videos, you know this classy act next to me. If you're going to be buying a home that's not all cash because you didn't win the Powerball, you're going to need some money. This is the money guy right here. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brian DeVito. I'm a Senior Vice President of Mortgage Lending with Guaranteed Rate.
Awesome sauce. And if you've watched our video, he's been doing this a long time, about 2 decades. And today what we're going to talk about, I'm really excited.
Matt loves what we're going to talk about today.
So excited. Today, we're going to talk about seller concessions. And people are like, oh, I know those. I'm going to stay away. Those seller contingencies. I'm not going to. No. I didn't say seller contingency. I said seller concession. And what that means is that when you go to buy a home in New Jersey, as the buyer, you're going to have a lot of cost at the closing table. And it is an amalgamation. That's the word of the day. Amalgamation. That's a fancy word for like a mixed bag, folks. It's a lot of different fees or charges, whatever the word is that you want to use, that all come together at the closing table that you, the home buyer, have to pay. And if you're like, well, what are some of those things? And Brian's going to tell us what some of those things are. And they add up pretty quick. Usually, I'd say, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but unless you buy something that's like really low price, the chances are pretty high. Would you say chances are above 90% that a closing figure would be double digits?
Yeah, 100%. Even if it is a smaller, a lower priced home.
So you could easily be 10 grand above, easy peasy. Yeah. So that is hard-earned money. So if you're like, hey, I'm working my full-time job, right? I'm a blue-collar worker. I'm working my tail off here in New Jersey. I'm down at the docks. I think that's what Bon Jovi sang about, living on a prayer with someone down at the docks. But I digress. Anyways, you've worked hard. You're saving that money. And look, real talk, it's not easy to save $1.
No,
especially
now.
Yeah, especially now. It's not easy to save $1. So basically, when you get to the closing table, you would come with a certified bank check for X amount of dollars that the attorney or title company gave you. And you are going to watch that money go and go up in smoke. It's like a magic trick, actually. It's like, you want to watch your money disappear? Abracadabra, poof.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So we are going to show you a strategic way, especially when you're making an offer, of how to get the seller, in a manner of speaking, to pay that for you. Now, to be clear, there's no free lunch.
Correct.
There's no free lunch. Maybe a slightly discounted lunch, right? A slightly cheaper lunch. So Brian is going to school us. He's going to take us to the school of seller concessions so you can understand this is something I can do. Absolutely, as a buyer, you can do this. So go ahead, Brian.
Sure. So I want to start off with saying that the type of mortgage that you're getting and your down payment, that is going to dictate how much of a concession we can ask for. I'm just going to use some random numbers as an example to kind of illustrate how we could potentially work this into your offer. Let's say you're thinking about offering a $300,000 on a property. And let's say that we've given you an estimate and that the closing costs are, let's say, $12,000. We may be able to write the offer for $312,000 and then at closing, ask the seller to give you that $12,000 back, which we can then allocate towards your closing costs. So as Matt said, there's no free lunch. You're basically financing it into the loan. So a lot of the times I'll have buyers ask like, hey, can I include my closing cost in the mortgage? That's how someone would go about doing that, is incorporating a seller concession.
And if you are a great negotiator with your clients like me, you gave the example where you would slightly inflate the price of the home. So
Correct.
$300,000 home and you say 312. But there are those times where, hey, to be very clear, it's a $300,000 house. And we're like, you know what? We're not going to pay you over that. We'll give you 300 and we want 12 back. And just so you understand that from a buyer perspective, and if a seller's watching this, how that actually works is yes, buyer. So there's no confusion with seller concessions. They'll say, okay, I'm getting 10 back, or I'm getting 12, or how am I paying for this? This is what you need to know. You are mortgaging what's on the contract.
Correct.
Right? Less maybe your down payment, right? But that's what your payment is based off of. So if you offer $300,000, less whatever your down payment is, that's what you're going to be financing. And if you ask that seller in this particular scenario for 12 grand back to the seller, it's like really getting $288,000
Correct.
for the house. And people say, well, Matt, like, why would a seller do that? Really, folks? I mean, really? It doesn't matter where the 12 grand comes from, right? So if you said, hey, I'll pay for my closing costs, seller, I'm giving you $288,000. 12 grand is 12 grand.
Yeah, right.
Like, what's it matter if it comes from the Easter Bunny or Santa Claus? 12 grand is 12 grand. So once again, people are like, oh, what seller would go for that? Well, a lot of sellers. And I've been
You're very good at that.
pretty good, folks. Pretty good right here with seller concessions for my client. Now, depending on the loan, to kind of segue into that, depending on the loan, because there's FHA, there's conventional, there's VA, all these different loans. We do know that there is a cap.
Correct.
Right? You can't just say seller concessions, I want $50,000. It does vary depending on the type of loan you get, right?
Correct. And I do want to say too that, the buyer's never able to get cash in hand. So if I make a 320 offer and ask for a $20,000 seller concession, if my closing costs are only $15,000, that other $5,000 goes out the window. So, if you're thinking about making a offer with a seller concession, that's a conversation that we want to have to kind of give you an idea of what those closing costs are so we know how much to ask for with respect to those limits. So on an FHA mortgage, your maximum seller concession would be 6%. On a VA loan, if any veterans are watching this, thank you for your service. The maximum seller concession on a VA loan is 4%. For conventional financing, if your down payment is less than 10%, the maximum seller concession is 3%. If your down payment exceeds 10%, then the maximum seller concession would be 6%. If you're putting down more than 25%, maximum concession would be 9% for a conventional mortgage. And then if somebody's buying an investment property, it's 2% regardless of the down payment.
That was well said, my friend. That was, you know what? Take a bow for that, That was, yes, well, yeah. Well done, Brian. Well done. So to just grab one of those out of the air so it makes sense, you said the FHA was 6%?
Correct.
So just as, again, to say, okay, how do the percentages come into play? So let's just pretend we have an FHA loan. Let's pretend the house is $300,000, okay? You have 6%. So correct me on the math here.
$18,000.
$18,000 is the cap.
Correct.
Now, if closing costs are not $18,000, okay, and on a $300,000 home, it would probably take a lot to kind of taxes or
high
something.
taxes, maybe in a flood zone.
Some of that stuff. So otherwise, you may not get that high. And Brian, this guy here, if you call him, he can kind of go over your offer. He can kind of give you an idea of what closing costs could look like on that property. So in case you're wondering, I'm sure the question is, well, then how do we know closing costs? How do we know what to offer? He will do the math. He will give you an idea, say, hey, on that home, it's going to be about $13,000 in closing costs. Now you know, like, oh, I can ask for that much back. I have an FHA loan. The home is $300,000. So my limit's $18,000. Great. So then you write that offer of the offer, and I want $13,000 back. As Brian said, you don't get cash back. If closing costs end up being $12,500, you do not get a $500 refund. Okay. Whereas the other way, if it's $13,500, you will owe $500. You will owe the difference. But again, this is a great way because you're saying, okay, what's the advantage here? Is that you're sort of financing that money rather than going to your checking account or savings or wherever it is, or selling stock or selling fancy crypto or whatever, right? And those NFTs and non-fungible tokens and wherever else you get your money. Bottom line is, it keeps that money where it is in your account. And you can use that later for doing the flooring or doing the painting, or just, hey, you want to hang on to that money and put it to work for you doing something else. Seller concession is such a great thing for a home buyer. Is there anything else we want to touch on here? Do you feel like you kind of just covered it all?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. But obviously, if we didn't cover something, if you have questions, always feel free to reach out. Our contact information is going to be down below.
It will be down below. So once again, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for giving us your time. Feel free to click the subscribe button, tap the bell for notifications. So again, you will be alerted to amazing videos like this. And we'll see you around the block. Thanks for tuning in. Take care.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.